race to the last drop. Are you gonna blow your head off? Take good aim and don't forget to duck. Life sucks every Monday and all the way to Sunday, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I don't care how you're doing, what's up or how's it hanging. I'd like to buy this world one last drink. And life sucks all of the time, stick it up your sunshine, and then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day. And then you'll see the clouds every day.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Crazy Life Podcast. This is episode 5. Yay, we made it a full month. Hey, you got to celebrate the little things, right? That's what we've been talking about.
Yep.
So, my name's Jen, and I have with me co-host Bryan. Hey, Bryan.
Hi.
How's it going?
Not too bad. How you
How's
doing?
this week been?
We've had some rough weather. That's not made for a good week for me.
Well, I know you've been having some hard times, just kind of getting out of your own head the last couple weeks. So,
Yeah.
Had you made any progress, or how's things going?
Well, I mean, to be honest, like the first half, not half, but Sunday, Monday, part of Tuesday, I pretty much was just in bed because of migraines / sinus type headaches because of the weather. Because
Yay, Michigan.
Yeah, because we got heavy rain one day, and then it's fairly nice the next day, and then heavy rain again. It's just and the change in those pressures just messed me all up.
Yeah.
But
And
other
the
than
60-80, 60-80.
yeah, exactly. It's like just pick one. I don't care which, just pick one, so that my damn head can normalize here.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what's going to happen. I know it. So yeah, it's been decent though. Other than that, I got a decent amount of podcast stuff done this week and some other stuff. Like one day I couldn't sleep, and I was like, well, I can't sleep, and so I've got a dang headache. So I got up and made some phone calls I needed to make, and got some stuff straightened around that needed to be done. And so I was like, I might as well do something productive with it,
Right? That's always good.
Yeah. So yeah, that's been about it though. So. Haven't really done a whole lot other than, go to get my medicines.
Right.
Which actually led me to, and I told the story over on Salty Language, but I'll tell it here. There was a woman behind me in the pharmacy, and she coughed. And when she coughed, a woman behind her, took 2-3 steps back.
Oh my!
Yeah, and it wasn't like this woman turned and coughed directly at her or something. The woman turned her head to the left a little bit, as you would do, to turn your head and cough a little bit there. And the woman behind her just takes this huge couple of steps back, and then I hear her tell her friend "Oh, I saw that woman on the news has TB, and you just can't be too careful."
Oh, geez.
And I'm just standing in line, I'm wanting to, do the, God, what do you call, what's that character? Stan on South Park, where he pinches his nose, because it's just because
Right.
your head hurts so bad, and the pharmacist just shaking her head, it was something. And then I had to go back the next day because I didn't realize my insurance actually has been reinstated. And
Woohoo!
Yeah, I didn't know it had been. So the first day I was there, I was paying for the medicines, and I'm like, yeah, here's, $32 or $33 out of my pocket. And then I was talking to the insurance the next day, and I was like, hey, is there any chance I can get reimbursed because I was under your coverage? And the woman's like, yeah, just go back. They'll rerun the bill, basically, and they'll, So when I went back, I was also looking at bagels, and where the grocery store has them now, they've changed where it's at, and it's kind of, there's this tiered table that they have clearance and over whatever you call it, extra baked goods.
Yeah.
And I see bagels, and I couldn't tell if they were blueberry or cinnamon raisin, and I was supposed to get blueberry ones. So I'm reaching for them, and as I'm reaching for them, this woman just darts in and just snatches them right out of there, like
Wow.
like they're gold or something. And I'm like, whoa! And I was like, I didn't want them that bad. And then as she turned a little bit, I read the label and it said cinnamon raisin. So in my head, I'm going, joke's on you. I didn't want those anyway. But I was like, dang, it's just. Why, some people, like bagels, like, really? This isn't like water after a catastrophe, or, it's just
right.
a normal day, and got to get them discount bagels.
It amazes me what people prioritize.
Mm-hmm.
It's, yeah. I don't try to understand, but all you can do is kind of laugh.
Yeah, that's all I did. I just shook my head and was laughing at it, and it was like they were like 70 cents off. It wasn't like they were, free or even something like that. I was like, geez. I mean, don't get me wrong. I know 70 cents can be a big deal to a lot of people. It's just, I'm just like, it's just not worth it. Like I could have grabbed them from her because I had a better angle and better leverage point. And I'm much bigger than her, so I probably could have just put my hand on them and kept her from them. But
right.
I was like, nah, she can just have them.
Yeah, it's not worth it.
Yeah,
it's like the whole cutting thing. When way back when, Bryan and I were in my vehicle and we were pulling up to the gas station to get gas. And there was a line, so, the pump was on my right, and there was a line up, so I was waiting in line for the pump. And this truck comes around the corner and is facing me, but angling in. So basically the person that's at the pump right now, as they're finishing up, he's basically angling so he can get that spot. Which I am facing the person that's pumping the gas, waiting my turn like a good person, and I see him coming up. I'm like, what the hell? He's actually going to cut in line. And so I'm usually a pretty even-keel person, but I'm like, you know what? Forget this. Yeah. No, I'm not letting this happen.
Well, not only that, there was not room for him to cut. Like, the way you were in there in the other car was, there really wasn't anywhere for him to cut there. Like even because the other car wouldn't have been able to get out of there. You would have had to have pulled away so he could pull up and then the other car could pull out, basically. It was stupid.
It was really stupid. So the people that, that were pumping the gas, they see what's going on. They want out of there.
Yeah.
So they finish up. I let them out, and then I quickly pull straight forward so that I'm at the pump. Well, the guy in the truck takes his truck and puts it almost on my door. So I can't open my door. So I'm like, all right, this will be fun. So I roll down the window and I said, and I look at him. I'm like, hello, do you mind moving your truck? You're preventing me from opening my door. Mm-hmm. And he said, this is my pump. And I looked at him like, no, I was waiting in line. This is my pump. Right. I'm right here. And he's like, no, that's my pump. And I said, no, I was waiting. This is my pump. Yep. He's like, no, I was at another pump. That pump didn't work. So I get next available pump. This is my pump.
No. He was in line for this one. He drove around because he thought there was another one open, but it didn't work. So then that was his return trip. So he was driving back to get back into his place in line. Or let me rephrase, what he felt was his place in line.
I see.
Because, that's how it always works in lines. Whenever someone walks out of a line, they can just meander around and just come right back in. And everyone goes, oh, yeah, that's right. You were here earlier. Please go back in front of 5 more people.
There's no Disney passes here, people.
Yeah.
So we ended up having a nice conversation. And I explained to him, I'm like, well, I'm not moving, so you need to move. And I rolled up the window. And that's when I think he figured out that I wasn't going to move. So he backed up, let me out, so I walked around, start pumping my gas. By this point, he pulls the truck around, gets out of the truck, comes up to me, and is yelling at me, calling me a cutter. And I cut in line, and I'm a big cutter, and I'm a cheat, and this and that and the other, and it's just absolutely going off.
Yeah.
I'm pumping my gas. I am not entertaining him whatsoever. I'm like, whatever. I'm just going to pump my gas and get out of here. This guy is a nutball. Nuttier than I am, which is not necessarily a usual thing.
Yeah.
You know, so when someone's that nutty, I'm like, okay, you know what? I understand you have your breakdown. It's okay. Move on.
Yeah.
A cop from across the parking lot hears him going off and comes over to find out what's going on. Meantime, everybody else's eyes are down, pumping their gas.
Yeah, I didn't see nothing. Yeah.
Minding their own business, just
Yeah.
do. And he's going up to the cashier and complaining to the cashier about me and complaining this and that.
The funniest part, real quick, is that it's like, what's the cashier going to do? Go, ma'am, you're going to need to stop fueling right now and move so he can get in there and fuel. Yeah, that's going to work because the odds of a drive-off aren't going to go up, exponentially at that point. Like, come on.
Like, whatever. So the cop comes over, starts talking with the guy, and then I look at him. I'm like, well, do you want to hear my side? He's like, no, there's no sides. There's no story. It's fine. Yeah. He's like, just go ahead and go. I'm like, okay. So I finish pumping my gas, and I get back in the car, and, and I turn it on, and I take off, and the cop tells the guy to get back in his truck, and pump's free now and stuff. So everything kind of works itself out. But it amazes me sometimes the entitlement that people seem to have.
Yeah.
They get so in their own space, in their own minds, that they don't recognize and see people around them.
Yeah, and I still to this day hold that I think that guy saw you as a woman and that you should give to him because he was a man. Because I don't know how to say this delicately, but he was not from this country. And the country he's from is not known for their women's rights. So, and the way he was talking to you was horribly disrespectful and such. It was, and that's why it's just a good thing the cop was there because that just diffused it as much as it was going to be diffused because there was going to be no consoling this guy,
No.
So, yeah.
Exactly. And that was like the main thing. And for those out there that felt that something should have gone differently, just so you know, I specifically told Bryan he is not allowed to get out of the car.
Yeah, she did not want me to get out of the car.
I said, you are not to talk to him, you're not getting out of the car.
I yelled at him from the car a few times, but I didn't get out of the car.
Not because of anything other than I don't believe that it would have escalated the situation. It wouldn't have helped resolve the situation.
Right. I'm not known for restraining myself well once I start shooting my mouth off, so I probably would have got myself in trouble because he was way bigger than me.
And it's one of those things.
He might have messed me up.
Yeah. I think I felt fairly secure that he would not put his hands on me.
Right.
I did not feel secure that he would not put his hands on another man.
Right.
So,
and not to mention, you had it in control. Like, it wasn't like you were out there flailing around or something. I mean, you were just like, I'm not moving. Because I was just sitting there going, wow, because especially at the time, that wasn't necessarily your MO most of the time. Normally something like that would happen, and I mean, and I'm not making fun. It's just, you would just burst into tears and want to,
Yes, that was pre-med.
Yeah.
For those out there.
Yeah.
There was pre-meds.
Yeah. This guy was a real jerk. I mean, geez. Yeah. Like I said, I remember yelling at him a few times, like, where's she supposed to go? What do you want? It's like, you're just being stupid. It doesn't make any sense at this point.
Right. There's no win for you here.
Yeah.
Why do you even bother?
And even if you're right, it's like, I know there was someone either behind us or to the right of us or something that yelled at him that yelled, you got out of line. And it's like, exactly, that's the rule. Like, there's no written rules and lines, but it's like, once you step out of the line, you can't go, oh, I was just here a minute ago. Nobody buys that shit. Even if they know you were, most of the time people want to get wherever they're going, so they're going to be like, nope,
Exactly.
Sorry about your luck.
It's got to be in the U.S. guidebook.
Yeah.
It's got to be one of those rules that, in the U.S. guidebook of how to live safe and healthy life in the United States of America.
Well, because otherwise, I mean, really, what's to stop somebody from just driving around the parking lot until one kind of opens up and then they just dart in there? And don't get me wrong, There are a lot of people that do, but there was no way you could really do it this time because the place was so busy that there was a line at like every pump pretty much, or every series of pumps. There wasn't any open spots, and it's like, look, man, if you got out of this line because you thought, it's no different like if you're at the grocery store, you're in a huge line, you think another line opens up, and you get out and walk over there, you're not getting back in line. People are just generally not going to let you back in. You know, they might, you never know, but a lot of times people are just going to be like, hey, you got out of line. I've done it where I've gotten out of one line to go to another and then gone, and I'll get back in the other. I get at the back of it. I don't even ask. I just go right to the back because in my head I'm like, I got out of line. I gave up my place. You know, it's like seniority at a company kind of a thing. You know, if you refuse a job, you can't, once someone else starts to do it, you can't then go, oh, you know what, I do want that job, and then still get it. They're like, no, we asked you, you said no, you passed, you know, so back of the line.
Exactly. Well,
anyway,
kind of on the topic of people not recognizing others around them and being kind of in their own minds, a friend of mine who does my nails, a very, very special person, just a very nice woman, and her husband have been trying for years to have a child, and they're unable to conceive naturally. So they've tried, you know, in vitro and a few other things, and the latest thing that they tried is they went to Mexico and they had embryos implanted in her, and one of them took, and she became pregnant. Very, very exciting time for everyone, of course. You know, it's a beautiful thing, and everyone was incredibly exciting.
Right.
Well, unfortunately, at 8 weeks, she lost the baby. And which for anyone is heartbreaking, but for someone who's been trying so hard for so long, it's extra heartbreaking. So they went to the doctor's office. They found out during an ultrasound. So they left the doctor's office and obviously upset. You know, she was having a hard time walking. Her husband was walking her out. And they got to the car and, you know, dealing with it the best way they can. They had to go to the OBGYN later that day to find out what the next steps were and stuff like that. Yeah. So they go to her OBGYN and they go to the office, and she literally couldn't stand up. Her husband was holding her up and walking her forward because she was so beside herself. Okay. They go up to the sign-in, and they sign in. The nurse says, you know, you here and sign in. So she signs in. They go sit down. Both of them crying. Sit down in an OBGYN's office, surrounded by pregnant people. A little baby's cooing in the waiting room. And there's a video playing about what to expect when you take your child home from the hospital. Right. So a fabulous atmosphere for someone who lost their baby. Right. To make things even better, this young woman, probably in her early 20s, was 32 weeks along because she announces it to the entire waiting room. As well as holds her back and pushes her belly out and like, oh my gosh, I'm getting so big. Oh, my goodness. Then goes up to the nurse's desk, or the receptionist's desk. It's like, oh, my pregnancy brain, I completely forgot my appointment. I need another appointment. You know, can he see me today? And the receptionist's like, no, I'm really sorry. We're very booked. We can't squeeze you in today.
Yeah, speaking of cutting. Yeah.
Exactly. And so she's like, oh, okay, I understand. You know, my pregnancy brain. And don't you guys get that pregnancy brain? And she's talking to the rest of the waiting room as my friend is crying with her husband in the corner. Yeah. And so the reception is like, well, we do have an opening now on Tuesday. Happens to be my friend's next appointment, which she will no longer need.
Oh, jeez.
Because she no longer is pregnant. So she hears this, which makes her even more sad. And then the woman goes around, starts talking to each one of the people in the waiting room. She gets to them. My friend's husband takes one look at her, catches her eye, and just shakes his head. Yeah. And so she like passes them and continuing on talking
Well,
to everybody.
at least she got, got the message.
Right. At that moment.
Mm-hmm.
So she continues on, and she no longer has an appointment. She has no business nor need to be in this waiting room any longer because her business has been taken care of. Continues to talk with different people about, oh my gosh, 32 weeks, this is so awful, and, my feet are swelling, and, but I love being pregnant, and da-da-da.
It's like, no, you love the attention from being pregnant. That's what you love. Yeah.
And so my friend, under her breath, so she thought, said, if we're talking about how long we are, you know how long we are? My baby's fucking dead inside me. Like, that's how far along we are. So you can just go ahead and leave.
Yeah.
So as she's retelling the story to me, her husband's standing there. And she's like, as I said under my breath. Her husband looks at me and is violently shaking his head no.
Yeah.
I'm like, and she looked at him and she's like, oh, I didn't. He's like, not so much.
Whoops.
She's like, oh.
Yeah.
She's like, that was out loud?
Yeah.
He's like, oh, yeah.
As crass or harsh as that seems, though, it's one of those things that sometimes people need a good kick in the ass for perspective purpose.
Yes.
And no matter how bad this woman thinks she has it, it's like, first of all, whatever. If she's at 32 weeks and the worst, she's got her swelled ankles and a bad back, welcome to the club from what I understand. You know what I mean? Like, that's pretty common. So at least she's not on bed rest. At least she isn't, having to be sewn up so a baby doesn't slip out early or, I've heard some god-awful stuff. I mean, those aren't even the worst things, but, your friends is the worst-case scenario, that you lose the baby. And it's like, but, I mean, on the other hand, it's like, you can't really blame the woman for, if she is happy about it, kind of spreading that around, but at the same time, if you see people crying and upset, maybe just kind of stay away from them to begin with.
Yeah, kind of keep it to yourself a little, downplay it. I mean,
also, if her business was done, why was she still hanging out? I mean...
Well, that's the thing that they didn't understand. I mean, after they took my friend back to a room that was non-babyfied.
Yeah.
They had a pretty generic room.
As awful as this is going to sound when I say it, the bad news room probably.
Yeah.
That would be my guess, is that's probably the bad news room.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's like, but it was very comforting because she was away from all of that.
Exactly, yeah.
It
was like when my mom told me when they went to tell her and my dad that my dad had terminal cancer. She's like, they took us so deep into the hospital. She's like, you wouldn't even think we were still in the hospital because they were taking you away from everything. And the reason they did it, it's almost like they take you to a quiet room so that because they expect you to be hysterical. And so that you can have privacy and not have people in a waiting room or whatever going, what the hell's going on,
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And that's what should have happened. Her doctor came in and was talking with her and could not apologize more.
Yeah. It's really too bad they couldn't have just taken her to that room to begin with. Like, as soon as she checks in, have someone just say, hey, we could just take you right back here,
That is what was supposed to have happened.
Ah.
See, they had told the office found out and knew she was coming in and knew why, obviously.
Right.
They had told the receptionist, who went on lunch, they told the receptionist when she comes in, escort her right back to this room, and I will come in immediately, and we can take care of things.
Right, because there's no reason to make her sit there and wait. I mean, it's...
Right, in a waiting room full of pregnant people and babies, and watching a baby movie.
Yeah, exactly, right, yeah.
And
while you're waiting, would you like to shop around Kids R Us here? I mean, like, here's a nice $20 gift card. You can pick out something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
exactly.
I mean,
it's awful.
She promised that they were going to be having an office meeting specifically around the situation because she's like, that is not how we handle business.
Yeah.
And that is not how we handle our patients.
Right.
You
Yeah, because, I mean, that's certainly not, at that point, that's not something you would want to recommend to a friend. Like, you wouldn't go, wow, they were caring and nice in the worst times for it. You'd be like, I don't want anything to do with them anymore because this was nearly a traumatic experience,
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they even took them out the back way. So they didn't even have to go back out through the waiting room and everything like that. So they were very accommodating after that point.
Yeah.
But it amazes me, all the stories that we've shared so far kind of all have the same underlying current, which is we get so caught up in ourselves that we completely blank out and don't even notice other people around us and what other people are going through.
Yeah.
And I think that is such a form of isolation that we kind of insulate ourselves. And we've talked about it before about, staring down and looking down all the time at our phones and this and that and the other, and not connecting with people, not connecting with the world. I think it's gotten so bad that we just can't even see things.
Yeah. Oh, you're totally right. I know people that this has happened with, that they get so caught up in their life that something happens to someone else around them, and they're just like, well, why didn't you say something? And it's like, well, you never seem interested when I do. And I'll be honest, to use that, I mean, that's a generic template for any movie, comic book, story that involves generally a depressed person that ends up killing themselves or doing something stupid. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where a lot of times it's like, well, I reached out for help, but you were too busy, or this or that. I told a story, remember, a couple weeks ago about somebody I knew that, wasn't too busy, but they were busy at the time a friend wanted them, and then the friend killed themselves in the meantime. And, you can't stop that stuff, and you can't live your life as though, well, I have to answer everything,
Right. And be there for everyone.
Right.
But just be more aware.
Yeah.
And I think it kind of brings up, loosely relates to the topic I want to kind of talk about today, which is, love, sex, relationships, dating, and all that good stuff. And how to navigate through that while dealing with, very personal things. Such as mental illness, depression, anxiety, but even further than that, even if you have any illness or any, handicap or anything that makes you different than the quote unquote normal, everyday individual, it can be very trying.
Yeah, yeah, because, I mean, like, you take online dating, and I'll bet if you ask experts, the people who write profiles and help people with profiles, if you go, listen, I suffer from anxiety, I'm clinically depressed, how do I put that in my bio? They're probably going to be like, maybe don't put that in your bio. And you'd be like, I kind of need to, because if I don't, I kind of feel like I'm giving somebody what do you call it, the bill of false goods or whatever it's called. I kind of feel like I'm misrepresenting myself a little, because on the surface I can put a nice smiley picture and someone could go, oh wow, hey, they're attractive, and then we start talking and I'm like, yeah, there's a couple days a week I can't get out of bed because of depression, and they're like, whoa, I don't know if I can handle that.
Exactly.
Because that's a lot to ask of somebody.
It is, and it's really tricky. And I mean, even something not as severe as what I deal with, because I am in medicine and I am, I've got things pretty stable. This is a pretty good, stable part of my life.
Yeah. And
the last time I was dating, I was still in hypermania, but I wasn't. I was still fairly, normal. I lived a fairly normal life, and I was able to kind of blend in, shall we say, more than some other points in my life. But internally, it was so difficult, because you would end up talking with so many different people, and from a woman's perspective, which I will honestly say, I think men and women both have a lot of difficulties with dating for different reasons.
Oh yeah.
Women have difficulty not because there's not enough out there, because I think men have an issue with not enough fishes to choose from.
Oh, definitely. Well, the main thing, we'll talk about that. I'll talk about that, yeah.
Okay. But for women, it's not the lack of fish. It's the lack of the right fish for me.
Yeah.
You end up talking with so many different people, and men have very short attention spans when it comes to dating. And they will talk to you for a while, and then they may even ask you out. But by the time they ask you out, if they ask you out on Tuesday for a date on Friday, they may not show on Friday.
Yeah.
You know, and that's...
Which is tough. It's tough, too, because when you deal with online dating, you don't know who's got what kind of anxiety issues, you know. So
Yeah.
It could just be that, or it could be that there's, you know, a duty head and decided not to show.
Exactly. And nothing is worse than if you have anxiety to begin with, anxiety issues to begin with, and then someone doesn't show on you. Like, no call, no show, completely stands you up.
Yeah.
Happened to me, I want to say, a good 4 or 5 times.
Yeah, wow.
And it is one of the worst feelings.
Oh,
because
yeah.
the first thing your brain goes to, because you're a nice person, the first thing your brain goes to, oh my God, I wonder what happened to them. I wonder if they're okay.
Yeah.
You know, I wonder if their family's okay. Were they in an accident?
Yeah, did they have some sort of emergency, right? Yeah.
Exactly. So instantly...
because you don't want to believe, I mean, especially initially, you want to believe that there's a rational reason they didn't show up.
Yeah.
Not a rejection-based reason or something like that, because, you know.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, you go through that part of it, and you're like, you know what? There's got to be a rational reason. You tried to text them. You tried to call them. There's no responses. My favorite of all time was this guy that we were talking off and on. He asked me out. We make plans, all this good stuff. My favorite restaurant. I was going to take him to my favorite restaurant. I'm sitting there. Waiters and waitresses know me because it's my favorite restaurant, of course.
Right.
So I was like, hey, how's it going?
They have waiters at Taco Bell? No.
No. I do love me some Bell.
Sorry.
But I wouldn't do that on the first date because, you know, I love me some Bell.
Right.
And
nom nom. Like Cookie Monster hitting a tray of cookies, yeah.
Yeah,
Bring me all the things.
Lettuce flying everywhere. Beans smeared on my forehead.
Right.
No, so I'm like texting him and I'm trying to call him and no response. And I just have dinner because, you know, I'm sitting here, I'm drinking a glass of water. I need to order dinner. So I'm ordering dinner. And, you know, finally he calls me. And he calls me, he's like, what do you want? I said, we had plans. I want to make sure you're okay. He's like, I'm fine. Don't ever call me again.
Nice.
Yeah. I'm like, fine.
So did you ever go? No.
Yeah. Well, that's the best part about this guy.
Yeah.
He starts texting me again a couple weeks later.
Ugh.
And wanting to make plans and set up for us to go out again.
It's like, yeah,
like,
lose my number. Yeah.
Yeah. He's like, I made a really big mistake and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, no.
Yeah.
A mistake is, you know what, I don't really think that I'm into it, whatever. And
yeah,
or a nice brush up.
Or as awful as it would sound, like you forgot. You know, like somebody like me, I could see my pregnancy brain and I'd forget. You know, so I could see because I've forgotten things until like last minute on people and be like, oh, you know, like, and I'm like hurrying to get ready, you know, like somebody will remind me of something. I mean, I've done it with podcasting. I've forgotten we're going to interview somebody until like 10 minutes before. I'm like, oh, you know, that's why I use a calendar now because I can't rely on my brain anymore.
Well,
at least that would be remotely forgivable. You know, I mean, it would suck, but if the guy plays it right, he could, you know, I'm such a scatterbrain. I'm so sorry. I'm an idiot, you know. Mm-hmm. But this, it's like he totally blew you off, and then when you called, he was nasty to you. So why would you ever give him a second chance? Don't get me wrong. I'm sure there's women out there that would.
Right.
And I'm not knocking women because I'm sure if the tables were flipped, there'd be guys that would also, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So it's just... Ugh.
Well, one guy, he stood me up. He texted me the next day, apologized up the wazoo. He said, "I'm so sorry. I went out with my friends before our date to have a couple drinks with them to kind of loosen up, and it got out of hand. I drank way too much,
Right.
and I wasn't able to show up."
So here's a question for you. On a scale of 1 to 10, where is that as far as a plausible excuse? What do you think?
It's about a 4.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Because on one hand, you're like, we've all kind of done that probably somewhere. If you drink, there's probably been, a time or two where you've only meant to have 1 or 2. And then next thing you know, you're like, I need to call off of work,
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like, yeah.
So I did give him a second chance.
Yeah, I could see that one. Yeah.
Right. So I'm like, all right, I'll give you a do-over.
Right.
And
although, it's like the second chance is like almost a zero tolerance, though. It's like if anything smells funny on the second chance, it's like, yeah, you're out.
Pretty much. And, and he was a very nice man, and we talked for a while and had a very nice dinner, but we didn't have anything in common, and it, wasn't so much.
Right. But you know what, though? At least he didn't ditch the second time or whatever. So
exactly. And that's kind of...
So you giving him a second chance was warranted because, or not warranted. I can't think of the word. Justified, I guess. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
You made the right call. He wasn't a dirtbag. So... Or if he was, you didn't find out. So
right. So I mean, it's definitely was a very interesting experience, and dating a few different people and kind of understanding the dating world. Because before that, I had been, I was in a long-term relationship, so I didn't really date very much before that. So this was really my first time actually going out and dating.
Yeah.
And so it was really interesting.
And it's just awful for those who haven't had to in a while. Awful. Anyway.
Dating is not fun.
I wish I had the clip of it. There's a Louis C.K. bit where he talks about how he at age 40-something became, how he got divorced. And he's basically like, I'm worthless to women because I'm trained to be married, and now that I'm not, I'm looking around like a helpless puppy, basically. Like, I have no idea what to do. I'm totally lost. Everything that used to work does, that kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And much like many other things that as far as I'm concerned, Louis just absolutely deconstructs and nails the feeling of it, that you just look at things and go, I just don't know what's going on. It's like your time has passed you by, and it's almost like you've time traveled, basically. Like you time travel how many ever years to the future, and then you land, and they're like, "Yeah, go find a date," and you're like, "I don't know how."
It's like, what do you mean?
Yeah. So.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I mean, I know that you've had your share of fun with the dating world.
Yeah, none good, but as I've been catfished a couple of times now, and honestly, the part that I can't get over is just the general disinterest. And I think, on one hand, it's funny because you mentioned earlier about how like women have the thing where there's basically. There's too many fish, but you then have to kind of find the better fish. And with guys, you run into a lot of it is that a lot of women, let me rephrase, will not message a guy first. I've seen it in so many profiles. Like, if you're interested, message me because I never message first because I'm a lady. And I'm like, that's a stupid thing. That's the dumbest thing. Why would you live under those rules? You know what I mean? It's like, it's hard enough to find somebody. Why would you potentially miss out on somebody you like simply because you won't message them first? It blows my mind. And in my head, I'm almost going, it's almost like, swipe left, concept.
Yeah.
It's like, nope.
Next. Yeah.
But that happens so much. And I've been told that by other women too. They're like, oh yeah, I never message first if he's really interested. But I'm like, why? It's like, I wrote a tweet about it at one point to where I was like, for all these like empowered women and strong women that I see on dating sites, none of them ever seem to message first. Like, I don't need a man. Like, well, clearly, because you're probably not going to find one. It's funny, though, because over time on the online dating, it's actually turned more into people watching for me. Like, I can't stop. Like, I kind of got to a point where I realized I'm probably not in a mental spot that'd be good for me to really enter into something with somebody at the moment. But I can't stop looking at these profiles because some of them are such train wrecks that
They really are.
I'm not even like making fun of people as much as I almost want to help people with it. Like, I almost want to go through and go, I can tell you what part of your issue is really easily. You know, like you see the women where it's like every picture in their thing shows them out at the club with like 20 people. It's like, first of all, I don't know which one you are. So I'm always going to assume you're the ugliest one or the biggest one. That's just rules, you know. Second of all, if you're constantly at the club, like, do you ever not, you know, are you ever not at the club? Do you ever do anything other than, you know, it's like, it's really tough. And I've also found, you know, like somebody, like I'm hitting the market at like 36, going to be 37 here before long, and I'm finding that the people who line up with my likes and everything tend to be about 10 years younger than me. Because I love comic books, you know, and I need that next generation down almost because I need the ones who are cool with that no matter what, like the open-minded, cool with everything people. And a lot of people in our age group are still that kind of like, ooh, I don't want to tell anyone I'm a geek because I don't want a wedgie mentality, you know, or they're the opposite, which is I'll wear a Batman t-shirt, but I can't tell you anything about Batman, which drives me crazy. But yeah, anyway. But it's really weird going through this because the longer you're on these kind of things, and if you don't get positive reinforcement, I at one point was I've told other people, I'm like, this just feeds into the depression spiral. Why am I not good enough? You know, and then that doubt gets going, like we talked last episode. Like, well, of course you're not good enough. The inner bully takes over and starts, you know, hey, dum-dum, why'd you think she was going to like you? You know, that kind of, you know, and for those of the record, yes, my inner bully, like, talks like that. He's essentially Mo from Calvin and Hobbes. You know, that's my inner bully. So,
Nice.
You know, so yeah, I don't know.
Well, there is help. So, I was doing some Googling, one of my favorite pastimes.
Right.
And there is dating sites set up for people with mental illness. Now, kind of surprised, but not so surprised.
Yeah, I'm not anymore because niche dating sites have been getting more and more popular, you know. So. Yeah.
Oh, my. So, it's called mentalillnessdating.com. And I did not sign up because I am in a relationship, so I don't really want to put a profile there.
Really quick, you know, when people ask how you meet, like, how many people from that website want to tell people they met on that website?
There's that. Probably want to say, you know, maybe met online.
Oh, what site did you guys meet on? Match, eHarmony? Well...
You know, the cool part about it is, as they promote themselves, dating online, in addition to having a mental illness or physical disability, can make finding the right person tough but not impossible. Mentalillnessdating.com has strived to make sure that finding the right partner is easy, fast, and done in the most respectful way. Having anxiety, bipolar, or physical disabilities don't define our members. It's their heart that makes them amazing human beings. Here at mentalillnessdating.com, we give you the means to take the first step, which can blossom into a potential relationship. We know you're sick and tired of being lonely, and this is why you have come to the right place. So, Bryan, my challenge for you this week, why don't you make a profile on mentalillnessdating.com
I have no problems with
what
this.
Happens.
All right. So here's a legitimate question about this, and I know a lot of times when I ask questions and stuff, I'm being very smart-assed about it.
Sure.
But, one of the things I've always kind of wondered about is when you're somebody with mental illness is how do you find somebody, how do you know that somebody else with mental illness, how do you know that you're going to pair with them? Like, at what point do you know that you know, how do you filter or look for kind of a thing? You know, because, like, if you're a person with anxiety, you probably don't want to be with somebody who has anxiety because one of you needs to be the level head, you know, because somebody needs to be a balance, you know. Don't get me wrong, it's not that it can't happen, it's just, it's very helpful if both people aren't losing their minds at the same time, you know.
Right, exactly.
And with and same with depression, like, you know, the kind of depression I have, if somebody has that kind of depression, I mean, man, that could be a bad situation if things are, you know,
feeding off each other.
Yeah. You know what I mean? You could spiral together and not even mean or realize that you're spiraling. Similar to, like, alcoholics together, you know.
Exactly.
You put two, or drug addicts or something, anything like that. So
there's some interesting people, because I mean it's geared towards people who, you know, who have mental illness or disabilities, you know, and like this first gentleman who popped up when I'm just kind of looking who's on here. It says his profile is light in the dark, and he is, I'm trying to see how he describes himself here. Well, I would say he's probably a dwarf or midget. I don't know what the right term is anymore.
Dwarf or a little person. Midget.
Little person?
Midget's not
okay.
Correct, yeah.
Yeah. So he is a little person.
There you go.
And so it'd be interesting, you know?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I was like, well, it's because I was, so, like, I forgot that you said there's also people on there with, like, physical handicaps and such. So,
yes.
Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense. Sure.
Yeah, so it's interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, she's really pretty. There's a pretty woman, but she's in Texas. And
that's the story of my life. No.
Yeah, pretty much, I'm sure. Finding someone in the Midwest has got to be difficult.
It's more the interest. Because people in this area their interest always have to do with camping and outdoor stuff. And, you know, anyone who knows me knows those are not my things.
No, not so much.
No. Like, I'm okay. Like, I don't mind being outside, but I have allergies and pollen and stuff just do not play well with them, so. No,
not so much.
Yeah. And
you're kind of like the bubble boy without the bubble.
I really am, yeah. It's like I need somebody who's cool with staying in, you know, or if we go out, it's not like a weekend of camping, because again, I don't do, you know, camping in a tent somewhere. Nuts to that.
You don't do no electricity.
Yeah. I am definitely a person who likes technology and creature comforts, for sure. Like, the worst thing you can tell me on a vacation almost is there's no air conditioning.
Right.
We could be staying in an igloo, you know, and I'll be like, there's no air?
Yes, one of Bryan's catchphrases that he's been stuck with for a long, long time is hot.
Because I always am running hot, and, you know, I went to Toronto years ago with friends, and where we stayed, there was no AC, and it was like 1,000,000 degrees, and it was awful. And the whole time, it was just, I jokingly at one point said I was going to stay the night on the subway because it was air conditioned. Someone's like, what happens if you get killed? I'm like, at least I'll be cool.
That's a dating plan for you. You
right?
can just ride the subway back and forth. And
yeah. Well, you know, and that is actually, that's a legitimate issue for me. Is, you know, because I don't drive because of my anxieties and such, that, you know, and I know there's Uber and all that other kind of stuff, but it's, you know, that's expensive, you know, but you can't have, you know, it's tough to figure out how you're going to get from point A to point B, and I can't offer to pick somebody up unless, you know, so it's, that's its own, you know. I saw somebody post somewhere, I don't remember, it was Tumblr or Twitter yesterday, that there's a lot of people that for kind of to get their head right, they like to go drive. And there's a lot of people who can't drive because of their mental illness, and someone's like, somebody should start like an Uber for these two groups. Like people who drive for therapy that go pick up people who can't drive, you know. And
right.
I was like, you
a
know.
therapy group session in the car.
Kind of. And I was like, you know, there is something to that.
Exactly,
like,
right?
How can you relax in the car? I don't get it. Like, why are you so uptight? Quit judging me. Let me out here. Yeah.
kind of, it's really catch-22. So much that I found with mental illness and dealing with the issues that I've dealt with in my life, it definitely, everything's kind of a catch-22.
Yeah. And
a lot of things I do, I'm damned if I do, I'm damned if I don't. So sometimes I choose to do, and sometimes I choose to no.
Yeah.
And it just...
It's really funny to me because, you see on the internet constantly people are posting how I'm going to clean this up, but they don't give a care, about stuff. Like, oh, I don't care, dude, feelings are due and whatever. And it's like, as somebody who's dealt with a lot of indifference in my life, that's the worst possible thing you could strive for in your life is indifference. Trust me. If you're not there and you can run the other way, run as fast as you can. But the people who are always like, oh, I don't give a care what others think and stuff. And it's like, yeah, you do, or you wouldn't be posting on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, fill in the blank. I've found that a lot of my decisions in my life have to, because of my situation, have to be done simply in I don't care what others think about my decision. Like, I have to just choose what's best for me probably 9 times out of 10, And then there's going to be times where you're like, no, I have to do this. I have to go. Like, it's someone's birthday or this or that. It's like, I have to be there. I can't not be there, that kind of a thing. So, but it's rare that overrides,
Well, it's part of the loneliness of living in your own mind like that.
Yeah.
It's isolating. It does not want you to have others around you. It wants you to be alone in the dark.
Yeah.
And to harken back to one of my favorite movies of all time, I should say movie series, Harry Potter. I want to think, which one was it? It was...
I was going to say you're on your own with this.
I know. It's the one after the Goblet of Fire. So I want to say Order of the Phoenix. In fact, it was. It was Order of the Phoenix.
Okay.
And Harry Potter was talking with Luna Lovegood. And they were talking about... Because Harry, after he saw Voldemort, and he came back and trying to tell everybody that he saw Voldemort, and Voldemort, and no one wanted to believe him because it's a very scary thing, and no one wanted to believe him.
Right.
So he was feeling very alone. And as she talked to him, she's like, but don't you think that's exactly what Voldemort wants, is for you to feel alone? Because when you're alone and isolated, then you don't have as much power,
right,
and he can take you on.
Yeah.
Versus if you surround yourself and build, a support system, it's much harder for him. So, and it's pretty good words. I mean,
yeah.
I think that, hey, we have to fight the Voldemort that's in our heads and stuff, the little evil beings that like to control things. And part of that is forcing ourselves to get outside our comfort zones, outside of our boxes, and to, to basically kind of combat that with people.
Yeah.
Now, kind of getting back to what we were talking about, a little bit about the whole dating thing, there was another article that I found on health.com, and it's 10 tips for dating with depression. So, and I found this very fascinating because it says mental illness, the last stigma.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
I don't necessarily think it's the last stigma, but it's a huge stigma.
Yeah, it's certainly a big one.
Yeah. So their first thing, so it starts with finding love. So about 18 million Americans suffer from depression, and another 20 million worldwide use dating websites each month, according to Online Dating Magazine. There's a stinking magazine devoted to it.
The question is, it's Online Dating Magazine. Do they actually put a print magazine out, or is it a website?
Right. Chances are... No. Sorry. I'm just thinking if they have a classifieds.
Yeah, right.
Personals.
Yeah. They should. They should.
Mm-hmm. Well, chances are there are people who will be in both groups. But dating can be a challenge when you suffer from depression. Sometimes if you don't feel like smiling but are in situations where you're expected to be happy, that can make you feel even worse, said Helen Friedman, PhD, a clinical psychologist in private practice in St. Louis.
And also me, and I don't have any of her credentials.
No, my goodness. So that said, meeting a new person can also be a source of joy. These 10 simple tips can make dating a bit easier. So here you go, Brian. We're going to help you find love.
Yeah, all right.
All right. So first one. And first one.
First one, ad.
And loading.
Yeah.
No, here we go. Consider professional help. Okay. If you're depressed, dating can magnify some of your challenges such as fatigue, irritability, low self-esteem, and reduced libido. Very true. The best way to stay strong, seek treatment if you haven't already. With greater awareness about depression, the stigma of mental illness can diminish somewhat. Therapy and or medication use is common and often very successful. More than 80% of people who seek treatment get relief from symptoms, according to Mental Health America. So, that's pretty good. I mean, we both considered professional help.
Yeah.
So, we're on our road. All right. Step 2. Time it right. Ooh, that's a difficult one. People who overthink things, timing is really difficult.
Yeah, it is.
You need to take good care of yourself before you can take care of someone else in a relationship. To do this, be sure to engage in positive self-talk, Friedman says. And if you are on medication, take it religiously. Be consistent with therapy, surround yourself with a support system of friends and family, and be around upbeat, positive people.
Mm-hmm.
Don't push yourself to date if the timing doesn't feel right, she says. Honor yourself. You might need to lick your own wounds first.
Right. The issue becomes, you have to be careful if you take a step back and say, it's just not the right time. And then 10 years later, you're still saying the same thing. It's
true.
You have to be careful that you don't allow the reason you, like, at first it's one thing, but if over time you're still doing it because of doubt, then, you need to re-examine.
Right. Absolutely. And the whole thing with licking your own wounds, at some point you kind of have to put a Band-Aid on them and let them heal.
Yeah.
You can't just lick your wounds forever.
Right.
Not a good call. All right. So number 3. Don't tell on the first date. Ooh, that's interesting. You do not owe it to the person to discuss your depression on a first date, Friedman says. If things become more serious, however, you should tell your potential partner. Friedman says a good time might be when you decide to see each other exclusively, or when you just feel that you care more deeply about each other. There are always individual differences, she says. Sometimes, or something may come up in a conversation where it would feel like a natural time, or that it would be dishonest not to. You may choose that time to share that you have depression. So she's saying don't put it on Front Street. What do you think?
That's kind of what I was getting at earlier, is it's like, when's the right time to put it out there? Do you put it on your profile, or do you not put it on your profile? Because I have incredible respect for people who do, because they're like, hey, here's me, and if this is too much for you to deal with, that's cool, I understand, but that's who I am. But on the other hand, I mean, realistically, most people are going to see a dating profile, and if you're like, yeah, I have anxiety and depression, they're probably a danger, and
right.
So,
and not knowing you and not knowing the extent of how it manifests in your life and how you handle it, I think makes a big difference. So
I'm not sure I'd wait until the point that you're like exclusive. I don't. That whole exclusive thing is such a it's such a weird concept, because it's like you're dating somebody and you're just dating them, but then you make it official that you're it's like you become Facebook official, and it's like, is that what, it's like, I don't know. I don't, the longer you don't tell somebody, the more they may feel like you've been dishonest with them.
True.
I mean,
I think
that's kind of where I'm,
depending upon the situation and the conversations you're having,
yeah,
like, maybe third, fourth date.
Yeah.
I think, I'm trying to think with my current boyfriend, when I told him, I want to say it was probably about 3/4 date or something like that.
Yeah, see, that's kind of where I'm thinking too, because it's, you know.
But yeah, I didn't really mention it before, but
Yeah.
you know, that was kind of a good time, and I didn't make a deal out of it either. Like I
Well,
didn't,
no, because if you do, you might as well just say, yeah, I don't think we should see each other anymore.
Right. You know, I didn't
Yeah.
make a big deal. Like, I really need to share something with you. You know,
Yeah.
nothing like that. It was more like, you know, kind of conversation. Like, yeah, I mean, I don't think I've ever told you this, but you know, hey, I'm bipolar.
Yeah.
You know, and I take medicine for it, and it doesn't really, you know, it affects me obviously, but
Yeah.
you know,
think,
you're not really going to see probably much difference per se.
right.
You know,
I
because
think,
I'm medicine for it, and
I think it kind of has to do also with where you're at with your mental illness. Like,
True.
you know, are you comfortable with talking about it? Are you okay with talking? Like, I talk on podcasts about it. I'll talk to anybody about it.
right.
Mainly because I don't like that it's not been talked about for so long. So it's one of the things where I've forced myself into an uncomfortable spot so that, for the greater good, essentially, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, because not enough people were talking about it, and I was like, look, I'm going to, because it helps me, and it may help somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, like I said, I don't know. I don't know that I'd want to tell somebody, like, anxiety is one thing, because a lot of people know what anxiety feels like and is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, clinical depression, a lot of people think they know what it is, but they really don't understand it, you know?
Right. That's true. And same thing, I mean, bipolar.
Yeah.
Because so many people tie it with schizophrenia.
Yeah, exactly. Because either that or they think that it's like, oh, I'm happy, I'm sad, I'm happy, I'm sad. It's like, yeah, it doesn't quite work that way. You know, it's...
Right. I mean,
you don't have
can,
one thought. Yeah,
but
I don't know. From what I've experienced of you having it, it's not like 1 second you're happy, 1 second you're sad. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like, it can be, but that's generally not how it manifests. You know?
No.
Usually it's a build-up, and then there's a big pendulum swing. You know?
Yeah. Exactly. I go from one aspect to another.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's, or I used to, I should say.
Yeah.
Because, you know, now I kind of, it's pretty much, you know, 0 to 60, and I'm hovering right now around 30 to 40 miles an hour. Versus before, I'd be at 0, and I'd hang at 0 for a while.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, I'm like, whee, 60.
Exactly. That's what I mean. It's like someone pulling a swing way back, and you're like, yeah, I'm cool. And then when you don't expect it, or like those power tower type rides, you know, when you're sitting there and waiting, and you're like, oh, I'm cool, I'm good, you know, because you get whipped into the air, you know, and you're freaking out, you know.
Yeah. And the most interesting part is you never know which way the freak out's going to go.
Exactly.
Because the freak out could either go, oh my
Yeah.
God, and burst into tears and go
Yeah.
crazy that way, or the freak out can go, this is the best thing ever, let's run. You know,
Right.
it's,
Yeah.
I've been told that person, the fun aspect of me, is really fun and really cool to hang out with at clubs.
It reminds you, you know, the kid in college or whatever that everyone's like, oh, yeah, I remember him. He was wild, man. He partied all the time.
Yeah.
And then you find him like 20 years later and he's like, dude, I'm on like, you know, this medicine and this medicine. I was really unstable in those days. And you're all of a sudden it's like, wow, I feel like such a jerk because we were like not just encouraging it, but man, we were feeding it big time, you know? And, yeah. So,
I mean, I have people now that are like, you know, I kind of miss the Jen of, you know, a couple of years ago.
yeah.
And I'm like, no, it's fine. I said, I miss her too, because man, she was fun.
Right. Or if you wanted to go the negative route, you know, you could be like, well, I don't because I was really sick mentally and, you know.
Yeah, pretty much.
You should feel bad for missing that.
Guilt. But, you know, hey, that girl, she could go all night. She was having a great time in life.
Yeah.
But, yeah. So I think kind of going back to what we were talking about, but I think you're right. I think it kind of depends upon the relationship and that you have forming with the person and conversations that you're having.
And who you are. I really think that has a lot to do with it. Because if you're a person where you're not full-on comfortable, like if you discuss it openly with your family, you can probably discuss it openly with other people like this. But if you don't, like me, if you look at my Twitter account, there's all sorts of depressed comments, you know, or things talking about depression. I'm on multiple podcasts. I talk about it on all of them. If anyone follows me in any form on social media, they kind of already know.
Right.
So I'm not going to hide it too long, but I'm also not going to – I'm also going to do the best I can to be like, it's something I deal with, but it's not who I am, you know?
That's a huge point. Yeah. I made that very clear when I was originally telling my current boyfriend that.
Yeah.
I made that very clear. It's like, it is a piece of me.
Right.
But it is not my whole me.
Yeah, exactly.
I said, you know, it can affect my moods, but it does not it affects my moods, but it does not change who I am.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
You know, it either amps me up or it downs me down.
Yeah.
I said,
right.
but it's still me.
Yeah.
You know, you turning the dial on the radio, you can't, you know, the volume goes up, the volume goes down, but the channel doesn't change.
Right.
You're still looking at the same music.
Exactly. Yep.
Mm-hmm. So the next one they have on here is how to talk about it, which I don't know if I agree with this.
Okay.
She's saying, when you feel the time is right, Friedman suggests a 3-part script. First, tell your partner that she or he is important to you, enough so that you have something about yourself to share with them. Second, don't just blurt out, I suffer from depression. Instead, preface it by telling her that there's something you've struggled with that's a fairly common problem. Let her know you have been diagnosed with depression and that you're taking care of yourself by seeking treatment. And finally, emphasize again that you care about the person and the relationship, and that this important message is as important as telling her that you have depression, says Friedman. I kind of, yes and no. I agree that you want to emphasize the importance of the person in your life.
Yeah.
And you also want to do the whole pro and con thing. You know, it's like, this is what I have. This is how I'm dealing with it.
Right, kind of like we were just saying. It's like, this is what I have, but this is not all of me. Like, you know, there's plenty of me that is not depression, you know?
Exactly.
But, you know, like I said, it's one of those, it's like, but if, you know, if there's any sort of long term to this, whether, and I don't even mean like super long term, but any length of time, it's going to be there, you know? So.
And there's also, you know, if you're staying with someone, so you say you decide to spend the night with someone, if you're spending any length of time with them, they need to know what medicine you're on.
Yeah. Or at least have a list on you somewhere and let them know or something like that.
For safety reasons.
Yeah.
I mean, when I travel with my best friend, I text her my medicines that I'm on.
Right. Yeah, and I know there's a lot of people that have done that, to where they'll put it in their notes of their phone, like allergies and medicines that they're on, and that's a great idea, you know. But somebody needs to know that, or they're not going to necessarily look for it, you know.
Exactly. Yeah, I shot them to her, and I don't think I told her ahead of time.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, and I just went and I shot him, and then she opened up the text. She looked at me. She's like, "Are you planning something?" I said, "No." I said, "I just wanted." In case something would happen for whatever reason,
right.
God knows what. But if something would happen to happen, and I'm not able to answer these questions, it's very important that you know exactly what's in my system.
Right.
You know, same thing with my boyfriend.
Yeah.
You know, it's just, it's important. It's for your safety as well as theirs. It's very important for if you are on medicine that they understand what the medicine is and what it does. To a certain extent, they don't need to understand, you know, read a WebMD on it.
Right.
But...
Well, no, because like paramedics and doctors and stuff, they should have a knowledge of the medicine, you know. Just looking at the name, they should know what it does. I mean, like, you know, if you see blah, blah, blah statin, they're pretty much going to assume it's for cholesterol, you know, because that's generally what the statin drugs are for, you know. Like, the rest of it's not as important, but it's a statin drug, you know.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
So, I mean, I kind of, yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I'm with you a little bit on this one. You have to be very careful, because you don't want it to be too me. You also want them to understand that, you know, that they're important to you, and that's why you're telling them this.
Right.
You know?
And I just, and you don't want to downplay it, but you don't want to over-dramatize it either.
Right.
You know, it's finding that balance between the two.
Yeah.
You know, and it's definitely not something you share in a text. Just in case you guys were thinking out there, do not text that person that.
Right. Use Voxer instead.
Just tweet it.
Yeah. That's what I do, you know. That's why I link my Twitter accounts to my dating profile. I don't. I've seen people do that, and I'm like, really? I don't know about that.
It seems a little dangerous.
Yeah, it's like, not my account. No.
Oh, the next one is accept assistance. In addition to surrounding yourself with the support of friends and family, Sheila Raj, PhD, a clinical psychologist, and assistant professor at the University of Illinois at Chicago, says it's important to let your potential partners know how they can help you. For example, if you exercise regularly to help lift your mood, ask your partner to join you. If they will support you in your endeavors, they could be a real keeper, she says. Telling them about challenges you face or going to couples counseling can also be helpful. Just talking about your relationship and how depression may impact it lets a person know you want him or her to be a part of your life. I would not recommend early on in a relationship asking someone to go to couples counseling.
I was thinking that too.
Just putting it out there.
Like, we've been together for a few months, and I was thinking it's time for us to take the next step. I think we should go to couples counseling. Wow, what?
Right.
Why? Yeah, I understand what she's getting at, though. I don't know where. I can't even imagine at any point that I'd be like, let's go to couples counseling for this. I mean, I understand why people would or could, because I could see where it could be beneficial. I just don't know that I would ever be okay with that.
We also don't live in California.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, so, maybe, because counseling, don't get me wrong, it is a thing out here for sure.
Yeah.
We're not in the boonies, but it's not as, well, I wouldn't even say common per se, but
yeah,
it's not as just everyday, I think, as some other places in this world are.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I'm not a big fan of the whole idea of couples counseling kind of on any level.
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things that, like, if someone's in, I understand, like, going to couples counseling because then you can support each other through the trials. That's kind of the point of it. But
not referee.
Yeah, I don't know. It just feels like, I don't know. It's just not, that's one that I probably would never do. But like I said, I can see the merit of it. I just don't think it would ever be for me.
Mm-hmm. I think more along the lines of letting your partner know how they can help you.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty vocal with my boyfriend. Like, I'll let him know if I'm having a rougher day than others. I'll mention it to him.
Yeah.
And he's really good at, he doesn't psychoanalyze or anything. He accepts things at face value.
Right.
So if I tell him, he gets up and comes downstairs or whatever, and I'm like, I'm having a rough day. And my anxiety's kicking up. I really don't understand why. It doesn't really make any sense.
Right.
And he's like, well, are you anxious about anything in particular? I'm like, no, it's just an overall anxiety about everything. And I just feel funny. I feel all jittery inside and not so good. And he's like, okay. And we'll have our coffee or whatever. And, if I say I need to go for a walk or whatever, he's very supportive and he's just kind of there, and I appreciate that. He doesn't push. He doesn't try to fix.
Yeah.
He just accepts this is part of me. This is where I'm at. And if I said, it would help me if you did such and such, he'd of course do it because he's very supportive in that way.
Yeah.
But, he's also the person that he likes to make me laugh a lot. Mm. So he'd probably also make jokes about it.
Right.
Mm. But laughter also helps me because laughter helps me to kind of get outside my own self,
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, it's why it's a pretty often used coping mechanism. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
People usually make jokes and whatnot when they're nervous or upset or whatever, as just a way of processing or a distraction or whatever you need at the time. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I have a WCC happening in my living room right now.
A what?
WCC, World Cat Championship.
Oh, okay. I was like, I don't know what that is.
Yes, the little one's taking on the bigger one.
Mm.
I'm sorry, I'm distracted.
Nice.
Mm.
All right, well, you got more from that
Yep.
article? Okay.
Sorry.
Oh, we're running long. That's what I was saying.
Gotta speed this up.
Yeah.
All right, we'll make this quick. So the next one's be patient, which I think is fair.
Yeah.
You know, be patient with the person. We talked about that last week a little bit. You know, low libido. Well, yeah. Well, I think most relationships can work through that.
Yeah, it's pretty common for a lot of people with depression, you know, that are on like the SSRIs or the, you know, the anti-anxiety, anti-depression type medicines to suffer low libido. So, you know, and I'll almost bet that's more of a younger couple problem than it is an older couple problem, you know?
I think so too.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, sex is important for every relationship.
Yeah.
But it seems to be more important when you're younger.
Yeah. I guess it depends. I don't know. I mean, you know, unless you're, you know, with you know, with some cougar that's like fresh out of a relationship and no.
There you go. You never know. A little shout out to our friend Butter. All right. Don't repeat past dating mistakes. I think that's a good one for everybody.
Yeah, right.
So I've been there, done that. Don't do it again.
Yeah.
All right. Next. Online dating. Oh, okay. Let's read this one. Millions of people turn to the internet to find a romantic partnership, but that does not mean it's not difficult. Well, duh.
Yeah.
It's easy to get discouraged when dating online. It takes skill to know how to navigate online dating to find someone special. There are sites geared specifically to those with mental illness, such as NoLongerLonely.com. Hey, there's another site. Cool. Friedman says that these types of sites can be a good place to go, but consider mainstream dating sites as well. Don't give up after meeting just one or two people. Discuss the process with friends and family, and have a good support system can help. There we go.
Yeah.
I like that. I'm a firm believer in online dating. I know some people don't. They think dating in, you know, the normal sense, meeting people like through other people or through work, through bar, whatever, is better. But I think online dating, you actually get to know a person faster, before you go into the actual physical dating.
Yeah.
So.
Although, who was it? Oh, I can't remember who it was on Twitter. Made the comment. I think it was Valerie Tossi. I think she made or somebody made a comment that it was like the problem with online dating is it's like reading the book before you see the movie, basically, kind of a thing.
True.
That it's almost like you get the absolute best of somebody, and then when you meet them, it's like it's almost impossible for them to live up to that expectation, or, you know, it's very difficult, kind of a thing. You know.
Or you end up like getting pretty much knowing everything about them, and then you meet and you don't have anything to talk about.
Right, yeah.
You talked about it already.
Yeah. But at the same time, you know, I've seen quite a few people that are like on Twitter and they live cities apart and stuff. And I don't mean like one city over, but I mean like states apart and stuff.
Yeah.
And they've become couples. Some of them have moved. There's been some I've seen where they've gotten married, you know, and that's on like Twitter. They've just started talking and just hit things off, you know. So.
Yeah. I mean, I dated a guy in New York and I live in Michigan.
Yeah.
So, you know, it can be done.
Yep.
It's difficult, but it can be done.
Right.
Acceptance. One thing to remember with dating is that all people have some kind of baggage they bring along for the ride. Well, that's cool. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, don't be too hard on yourself, but don't be too hard on the other person, too.
Right.
You know? I think accept them for who they are and accept yourself for who you are. So, yeah, I mean, I think those are pretty solid for the most part.
Yeah.
You know, and the next one, which is interesting, 10 no-cost strategies to fight depression. So that's obviously the next article. But
yeah,
that might be interesting. I might be sticking around this website to read that one.
I was going to say, I can probably guess a good chunk of those because I've read them on other things. But yeah. Yeah,
salmon is the picture, so I'm assuming that's one of them.
Okay.
Just so you know.
Right.
Anyways, since we are running long, and I think we're pretty much done for the moment.
Yeah.
Although I think this is going to be a topic we're going to revisit, and maybe even with bring on some guests and stuff, and revisit this with them and kind of see what their experiences have been and what their thoughts are. I mean, dating and relationships, and even that, I think that mysterious word sex definitely takes on a different tone when you introduce things like mental illness and other things into it. So I definitely can see more talk on this in our future.
Yeah.
So with that being said, thank you very much for joining us, and we'd love to hear from you. So please feel free to reach out to us. You can reach me on Twitter at Jen's Crazy Life. You can reach us at our website at thecrazylifepodcast.weebly.com. You can also, I know you've already downloaded us, but if you're looking for another way to download us, you can go to our Libsyn site. You could also go to Stitcher. We are now on Stitcher. And hopefully Bryan will be able to get us onto iTunes soon. And with that, we haven't talked about how our challenges are going. So let's do that real quick.
Trying to remember.
How's your challenge? Your challenge was to get the stuff ready for the podcast.
Yeah. I have not gotten that far. I started doing some stuff, but I haven't really. It's more like I have thumbnail kind of stuff done, but I don't really have anything that's any substance at this point. But that's something I'm going to work on a little more, probably tonight, actually.
Tackle that white page.
So, yeah, exactly.
I know. It's scary, but you can do it. I know everybody's rooting for you, so you can do this. And I did not put the laundry away, but I did vacuum and I did clean the house, partly because the house really stunk of cat box. And it was being, very vocalized by my boyfriend.
Right.
So I kind of needed to do something. So I did, with a lot of motivation. So I did do some of what I set out to do, and I plan on continuing that. So going into this week, I'm really going to focus on that. An update, I have been taking my walks down to the lake on a fairly regular basis. It's not daily, but on a fairly regular basis, and that's really been beneficial for me. It's really kind of helped me to kind of calm down, feel like I have more time in my life, and feel like I have more control. So I think it's just taking that 10-15 minutes out to just really focus on myself and just being in a relaxing environment. I think it's really beneficial. So highly recommend that to whoever, if you guys have that opportunity, then absolutely take it. Very, very, very good for the soul, shall we say.
Right.
So, Bryan, how can we reach you?
You can find me through the places Jen said, or you can also find me on Twitter if you'd like to at Stunami. My other podcast is Salty Language. You can find that at salty_language on Twitter, or our website at saltylanguage.com. And I feel like there's something else, another contact, but I can't remember what it is. So yeah, that's enough.
But highly recommend Salty Language, not just because obviously I'm a good friend of Bryan, and his friend Tony who do the podcast, but it's a very lighter side of Bryan. I think here you kind of get the not necessarily darker per se, but a little bit more serious Bryan.
Right.
And that's definitely the silly Bryan.
Yeah, we're just over there acting a fool basically on the other website.
Pretty much.
So, yeah.
Acting a fool.
Yep. Also, thanks as always to our pal Heno for the opening music. You can find him on Twitter at Ida Heno, IDAHENNO. And we actually just had him on Salty Language. It just went up, yesterday as we're recording. But if you'd like to go listen to that, it's under the enthusiasts on our if you go to our page. But
yeah, and if we're lucky, we might be able to get him on here with us to have a chat.
Yep.
So, all good things to come in the future. So stick around and stay with us. Contact us, let us know you're out there. Keep with the downloading, and have a good week, everybody. Enjoy yourselves.
Hey everyone, just also wanted to remind everybody that me and Jen are not medical professionals. We're not therapists. We're nothing like that. We're just two people who are dealing with mental illness. If you find that you need help, please seek out a professional. If you're in a bad way, call the suicide hotline number, which is you can easily find that, just by Googling it. Or contact a friend or family. Just don't be alone if you feel like you're in a place like that. But, please seek help because, you're worth it. And, yeah, that's all. Just always seek help if you need it.